How to set up your watercolor palette. First, we need to take a second and set up your watercolor palette. In just a second, the video is going to pause, and I need you to pop out both sides of your tray and arrange the colors in the way that you see. Please write in Sharpie marker up right above the color the letter that you see on this chart that will tell you the names of the colors. You will notice the top of your tray also has an area where you can mix your own colors. We'll be using this a lot today. If you run out of room when mixing colors, you can always take a paper towel and wipe out what's there and start new. First, we're going to set up your watercolor chart with pencil. You're going to need a ruler for this part of the activity. Turn your sketchbook so that it's easy to get your ruler up against the spiral. Take your pencil and draw a straight line that goes from 1 to 8. Make a hash mark at each inch increment all the way down the line. Once my ruler's lined up, I'll mark 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5, 6, 7. Turn your notebook a quarter turn. Make sure your ruler is straight. Start at 1 and draw a line all the way down to number 8. Mark each inch. Turn your notebook a quarter turn again. Line it up at 1, make sure it's straight, and head down to number 8. Mark each inch. One more line. Line up a straight line from 1 to 8, closing your square, and mark each inch. Okay, now we're going to connect those lines. We're going to connect the lines at the top and the bottom of the box by lining up our ruler, holding our fingers like an L, and pulling our pencil towards us. When you're finished, you should have 8 rows across. You'll find that you have to work around the spiral a little bit. Now for the other direction. Turn your notebook so that again you're pulling your pencil towards you. Line up the hash marks and stretch the lines across. And again, you'll have 8 boxes. Try to keep your pencil lines very light. There you go, that's your grid. Now we're going to take your ruler and add one more line. Line up the far left and far right corners of your square with the ruler and draw a diagonal line. This is going to separate the pure values with the watered down 50% lighter values. Time to start painting. Before you begin, spray your paints or add a few drops of water to the 8 colors we listed. You'll be using your small brush for this activity. I'm going to begin by painting pure red pigment into the top portion of the RR box. I'm going to try to avoid going over the top of my pencil lines. I want to be just inside the edge. My paint should be very flowy like ink, but a very dark, pure color. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that same red and add it to the lid of my paint tray, pure color. I'm going to dip my brush about 2 or 3 times in the actual paint cup and transfer it over. Then I'm going to dip my brush in water 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and mix it into the paint. This is going to water down my color so that I get a 50% lighter shade of my red. This will get painted in the bottom half of the RR square. Here you can see the 50% lighter shade on the bottom and the pure shade on the top. Now let's go to orange. Okay, ignore that there is an orange painted in the red-orange spot above. Find O and O with your fingers and follow it. It should be 2 boxes in and 2 boxes down. You're going to take pure orange pigment out of your tray, the oval pans, and paint it on the top half of the divided square. I actually made a small mistake putting my first orange above that, and I'll come back and fix it when I get to that row. It'll be fine. Now, transfer pure pigment to the lid of your watercolor tray. And then pick up your 5 scoops of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mix it in and begin painting the 50% watered down pigment. Find yellow, yellow on the top and the side with your fingers. We'll be working a diagonal line right down the diagonal line we laid in pencil. Take your pure yellow pigment and put it on the top half of the line. Remember, you're trying not to paint over your pencil lines. You need to build yellow because it's a light value with more than one coat. That's just fine. Now transfer yellow pigment to the lid of your watercolor tray and grab 5 scoops of water. Mix it in and paint the 50% lighter value underneath. If it looks too light, you can always add 1 touch of yellow back in just to bring it up. We just want to make sure that it still looks lighter. Find green, green on both axes. Grab pure green pigment and paint the top part of your triangle. Rinse your brush, grab pure green pigment, move it to your lid, add 5 taps of water, and mix it in. Paint your 50% lighter value underneath. I go back and straighten up any edges that don't look nice. Next, we're going to do turquoise. Paint pure turquoise pigment on the top half of your square. Add turquoise to the lid of your tray. Add 5 drops of water. Mix in the water and paint your 50% lighter turquoise. Find your blue on your top and your side axis. Paint your pure blue pigment on your top triangle. Move your blue pigment to your lid. Mix your 5 drops of water in. And paint your 50% lighter shade underneath. The colors on the diagonal represent pure colors straight out of the pan, unmixed with any other color. Next, we'll move on to violet. Grab pure violet pigment. If it's gotten dry at all, be sure to add a little water to it. The paint should move like ink and not be sticky. You'll notice that sometimes I turn my sketchbook because it's easier to move my hand in this way to carefully fill in all of the areas that are small. Next, add purple pigment to the lid of your tray. Mix in your 5 drops of water. And paint your reduced pigment underneath in the triangle below. You can see in this spot I accidentally touched a little bit, and it's just fine. If I give it just a second to settle down, I can always go back and run my brush against the spill and kind of spread it out so that it doesn't look quite so dark in that one area. All right, our last color is red violet. We should be in the last box on the far right of our square. I'm going to start with pure pigment on the top right. I'm building the color on this red violet. It looked a little bit weak when I first put it down. Once I've got that the way I want it, I'm going to move red violet over to the tray. I'm going to pick up my 5 drops of water, mix the water in, and paint the 50% lighter shade underneath. All of the painted squares underneath the diagonal line will be light. All of the squares above the diagonal line will be pure, intense color. There are our pure colors out of our watercolor pan.